This is a very cold, logical new moon, and it's not bad, it's not scary, it's nothing that I wouldn't look forward to, but it definitely looks like a time of choosing to be logical and cold rather than emotional or understanding. So definitely starts off Aquarius season with highly Aquarius energy. If you're excited to dive into what exactly we can expect from this new moon in Aquarius, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you are up to date with what the stars have in store for you. First, we're going to get into the overall vibe of this new moon, then we're going to get into the world charts that it's relevant for, prediction-wise. And if you're new here, welcome. I am Maren. I am a tropical astrologer using traditional Hellenistic techniques, and I offer courses, readings, and a lot more down below if you do want any info around that, as well as I may still have availability for my retreat happening in June. If you want to join me for a few days in Costa Rica this June 2023, feel free to check that out down below. We may still have spots open. So this new moon is happening on January 21st, 2022 at 3:52 p.m. Eastern Time. The sun and the moon are in the first decan of Aquarius, very early in the sign. And that first decan of Aquarius is associated with the Five of Swords tarot card, also known as the Lord of Defeat. But you can think of it more as a decision to willingly withdraw or intentionally remove yourself from a situation because you're like, I'm not gonna mess with this, I'm done with this, I'm out, there's higher, better vision things I wanna deal with. You're becoming an outsider on purpose. So you can think of suddenly realizing you're more mature, you've outgrown a certain dynamic, or realizing that you don't wanna work at a day-to-day job anymore, you wanna do something a little bit different with your life. It's similar where yes, it's kind of like you're out of the group, but it was more of your own doing. And Aquarius itself is a fixed air sign and also a Saturn ruled sign. So fixed air is the epitome of air. It is intellectual, it is logical, and it's also the epitome of that season, which is winter, which is cold, it's dry, it is very direct, and it does not have a lot of moisture, or you could say emotion and wateriness wrapped up in it. Aquarius does not refer to anything water. It refers to Aquarius being the water bearer or being the structure that provides that support for others. So Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, which is a planet of structure, seriousness, and boundaries. Whereas in Capricorn, it's a feminine Saturn, which is associated with being protective or closing down and being a little bit more threat responsive and averse. Aquarius is Saturn as a boundaries up level of building on top of something or providing the structure and the architecture for others to build on. So it's a more masculine or positive Saturn rather than a feminine or a negative Saturn, just referring to the way that it is limiting or closing down rather than providing or opening up. So if Saturn is boundaries, I like to compare it with Capricorn being top down, closing in those boundaries. With Aquarius, it's bottom up where you are supporting with those boundaries a little more idealistically or optimistically, even though there's nothing wrong with Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn rising. It's just a difference in our behavior generally. So this looks like a willingness to go off and do your own thing for the higher vision that requires support. So you're logically choosing to remove yourself and start something new. This is still within 3 degrees of Pluto in Capricorn. It's very early in Aquarius. So it's still conjunct Pluto technically, even if it's in Capricorn. So there's an amount of psychological intensity, of directness, of focus, of just overall psychological intensity going on here, or some scheming or some masterminding in order to create something that is this serious. Venus and Saturn are also conjunct in Aquarius, which is another one of the really big hallmarkers of the seriousness of this new moon. So Venus is values, harmony, priorities, what we love or what we want to maintain as beautiful, and Saturn is seriousness, commitment, and structure. So Saturn and Venus combined shows the serious commitment or decision making to relationships, finances, overall values. There's a very serious decision that's being made in order to commit or draw a boundary around those things. In Aquarius, it's likely going to be involving the long-term potential or long-term goals that you are looking forward to. So for example, in a relationship, you might decide to have a certain amount of date nights every month. And it doesn't feel like too much or too little, but it's your commitment to the other person that you're going to structure it this way for the integrity of the relationship. Maybe you don't live together yet, that's a boundary, and maybe you do want to still have date nights together religiously and in that way because you want to commit in that way. So it's a very appropriate commitment. It could be as well that you might be setting a budget financially. You're I don't have a spending problem. This isn't the kind of alignment where it looks like there's a direct issue that is very aggressive. It looks more like your long-term values and priorities are requiring you to set up a system or a matrix to support that. So it could be you scheduling trips or dates together in your relationship. Could be that if you are in a more open relationship that you were like, no, we are settling boundaries and being exclusive. If you were having it in financial houses like I am, I might be thinking of like budgeting or spending or something that requires a little bit more structure, but isn't necessarily anything super challenging. In fact, for me, this is happening with Venus and Saturn on my lot of fortune, so I think it could be like a fortunate thing. So this is nothing that I would be scared about or worried about. In fact, Saturn being in its own sign is very positive. That Saturn is ruling this new moon in its own sign shows that the defining quality will be serious commitment or structure, but that it will be involving values and building something up for the long term. I also like that this new moon at 1 degree of Aquarius is sextiling Jupiter in early Aries, showing the opportunity for knowledge, expansion, and growth of what this supports. It's trining Mars in Gemini, which is now direct, showing the ability to move forward with actions and actually put our money or our actions where our mouth is. We're not just speaking this into existence, we're like actually existing it into existence and doing the work, which is what I prioritize with the way I think about manifestation. Is like, if you need a drill sergeant, someone to like really get you up, I am like, yeah, sure, manifest, do all the law, like whatever the laws are. I love that shit too, it's cool, but also take the fucking action, text them, get off your ass, do the thing, you gotta like rev it up. In fact, like fun fact, when I was literally like 6 or 7, my good friend knows this. If you're watching this, you'll know this. You can comment down below that you were the friend. I'll know. I used to, on the playground, pretend I was Jillian Michaels and coach kids to like do physical fitness. I just spit everywhere because that was that strange, that was that cringe. I remember like yelling at my good friends to jump off of the monkey bars in certain ways that I knew were like more difficult on their arms or something. And I would like, I love Jillian Michaels. So like I've always been that kind of person. Clearly I was not, never mind. I was gonna make like a lack of motherly joke, but like honestly I don't think that had to do with it. I think I just idealized like military or like fit, like that was just cool to me. Luckily there are not that many challenging aspects to this new moon. I would not be worried, concerned, or think that there's anything bad happening here, but it is very serious. I'd say that the proximity to Pluto is the most intense thing around this, but that in and of itself is not bad. It just adds intensity, but this is already going to be a serious new moon, so it is just a more sober, dry time. Mars isn't making any difficult aspects. Saturn is present, which can be dry, but I mean it's on its own sign, it's conjunct Venus, so it looks like a very logical, intellectual new beginning. It's great for anything tech related, like inventive. It's great for anything that requires grounded thought. It could be in relationships if it's in your relationship houses, but it's not an emotional new beginning at all. In fact, it looks like you are bypassing emotions in order to come to the most logical decision. So if you already know how this could be showing up in your life and what you were expecting, do feel free to comment that down below. I know for me it's in my second house of income and spending, so it doesn't look like anything that'll be too investing or trading related, but could be that I'm setting up a new budget or way of thinking about my day-to-day expenses. So in the US chart, this looks extremely relevant. This is happening in the 3rd house of day-to-day communication or media, and it's very close to the South Node, and the South Node can represent opening up or releasing. So I think this will be a new beginning of releasing or documenting something, and with Venus Saturn on their moon, which rules the 8th house of the market, there could be a new initiative of opening up around financial statements or something money related being out in the open, such as spending or financing or like donations. Something financial is coming out into the open. It looks very serious but not dire, and doesn't look like anything that's bad news, but does look like very forthcoming, very serious news. This also looks really relevant. I'm only talking about 4 charts, but it looks relevant in Trump's chart. This will be happening in his 7th house of close relationships, so it's a new moon around a close relationship, and Venus and Saturn are right on his descendant, showing a valuable commitment to a certain long-term relationship that does not look romantic and does not look like it's intimate. It looks much more dry, but it could be an announcement around someone that he's working with very closely. I don't think that people announce running mates unless they actually get the nomination, and like at this point, obviously that's not relevant, but it does look like a close relationship or commitment with another party that he's being open about. So for the markets, I'm expecting a pump into this and then a dump out of it. New moons, we pump into them, and then the days following, we dump out. With Jupiter exactly on Bitcoin's moon, I'm very bullish in the immediate term. So when I say very bullish, people are going to be like, oh my god, Bitcoin 100K, you fucking idiot. But I'm like, no, I'm talking about in the few days leading up, I am bullish. This new moon is exactly on Bitcoin's Mercury, and anytime Mercury is activated in Bitcoin's chart, it's actually it's a particularly specific sensitive indicator as compared to other planets. So with this happening on Bitcoin's Mercury, I think that it looks bullish going into it, but Venus, Saturn on Neptune can show both positive and negative aspects. which kind of relay this pump into it and then dump after. For ETH, this definitely looks like a pump into it and then a dump out as well, because it's opposite ETH Sun, but it's also Venus and Saturn opposite ETH Jupiter. TLDR, there's mixed, positive, and challenging, so it looks like pretty clearly follows the pump into the new moon and then dump out of it pattern that we do see often with these things. So it looks like a serious time, a logical time, an intellectual time, good time to start anything that really has those qualities. If you enjoyed this and you want to check out my readings, my courses, or of course my retreat, feel free to check that out down below. Otherwise, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, and let me know how you're feeling around this new moon. Happy Aquarius season, and I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, but there is one.